Welcome back to the Dividend Diplomats YouTube channel. You know, you got your boy Lanny, Ambert, the Heart, the DD. And guys, we're here to talk to you now that Q2 is over. The mutual funds and ETFs have not only announced, but more than likely have paid out that Q2 dividend. And we want to peel back to see what the growth rates look like.
Before we jump into these, smash that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. Everyone, we're closing in on 14,000 subscribers. Let's get past that. Let's blow past that to 15,000 subscribers. That's what this is all about. Thank you for helping us spread dividend investing news throughout the community.
Dividend investing in 2022 has actually been a very big bright spot within the investing and stock market industry right now. Why? Because for the most part, dividends not only are continuing to be paid, but increases have been insanely strong. Think about UPS 49%, FedEx over 50%. You have Target at 20% plus, Kroger over 20%. Dividend stocks are raising their dividend regardless of really what's happening in the stock market, which then has an indirect impact on mutual funds and ETFs.
As you're going to see, as we start talking about these 5 funds that we're going to feature here, they each hold all of these dividend growth stocks within their portfolio, and especially the ones that we invest in, because some of the ones on this list that are going to be in our portfolios mirror the strategy that we have. That really shouldn't surprise you. We're going to invest in ones that pay in high quality companies that grow their dividend over time. So when we go through those, we're going to talk about some of the companies they hold, and you're going to hopefully see why you're getting some larger dividend payouts on these funds.
So we're covering 5 Vanguard ETFs, or exchange traded funds. Again, this is the lower cost way to reduce your risk and own a basket of dividend stocks versus individually stock picking. It's a good strategy for all those investors out there that need to really start investing, beginner investors as well. Great way to start. We choose Vanguard, or at least I choose Vanguard. You guys know I buy $50 a day of Vanguard's S&P 500 VOO, and my wife and I buy weekly Vanguard's high dividend yield ETF VYM.
Excellent segue into that first fund that we're going to talk about, Lanny. We're going to talk about the behemoth, the Sultan of SWAT of your portfolio right now. Yeah, it is Vanguard's high dividend yield ETF VYM. Yeah, you've been buying at least 3, at a minimum, 3 shares every week for you and your wife since, what is it? Wait, let me see if I get this right. June 2020, or is it March 2020?
July 2020, towards the end of July, I really started ramping this strategy up, and then August kind of made it official. But yeah, July, so almost 2 years ago, essentially, we started this journey of buying Vanguard weekly, regardless of what's happening in the stock market.
So think about that, 3 shares every week, times 2 for each of their portfolios. Over 2 years, that's 52 weeks. You bet Lanny was all over this VYM dividend announcement. Do you want to tell us about it, Lanny? You want to break the news to the community?
Yeah, we did reduce it down to 2 shares because of the stock price appreciation. This was a while ago.
Yeah, that's right. You did. It doesn't matter. You still are investing consistently.
So yeah, so Vanguard's VYM, they came out with their Q2 dividend, a week or 2 ago, and that was 84.79 cents for Q2 of 2022. And we compared that to Q2 of 2021, which was at 75.32 cents. That was a huge increase of 12.5% quarter versus quarter on that dividend.
That's huge. Congrats. I mean, the impact that has to your dividend income alone is insane.
Yeah, it's awesome. Much better than the 0.85% that they had from Q1 22 versus Q1 21. But technically 2 quarters in a row of dividend growth. Obviously, I can't really complain about it. Really appreciate that Vanguard, high dividend yield ETF really came through. And you talk a little bit about that portfolio, Bert. You already know they hold, hundreds of stocks in there.
Number 1 in their portfolio is near and dear to my heart, Johnson & Johnson, followed by Exxon, JP Morgan, Procter & Gamble, Chevron, Home Depot, right there with the big whale dividend increase. Pfizer, Eli Lilly, Bank of America, and AbbVie. That sounds an awful lot like the portfolios that we share on our website with everybody, doesn't it, Lanny?
Exactly. And, all these companies on this list continue to pay out a very strong and, safe dividend for the most part. So that was VYM. So, Bert, the next ETF is one that everybody more than likely has either heard about and or also owns. What is this next Vanguard ETF?
They actually fast forward in your videos when you start talking about this in your weekly purchases. Like, yeah, no, let's just get past this one. We're going to talk about VOO, the Vanguard Index Fund, the S&P 500 ETF. Expense ratio is a nice calm 0.03%. So let's talk about the dividend here. Q2 2022, 1.4321. Q2 2021, 1.3329. That is a 7.44% growth rate year over year for the quarter.
So when you think about that, the S&P 500 ETF invested in the top 500, or in this case, 505 stocks are in the ETF, grew that dividend an average rate of 7.44%. Obviously, VYM grew it a little bit better, but in Q1, VOO actually had their dividend grow by 8.81%. So this year, the VOO ETF is firing away. It's just growing like crazy.
I think it's nice that it's consistent too, because VYM, to your point, it had a large second quarter, but that first quarter dividend growth was nothing to write home about at 0.85%. So it's kind of nice to see the predictable growth for once here.
Yep. And in the major companies in VOO, when you think about the top companies in the world, you've got Apple that's in there at the top spot, followed by Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet/Google, Tesla, Berkshire, Warren, you're welcome, J&J, United Health, and NVIDIA. So
I love it. Again, S&P 500, it sounds like exactly what you'd expect. Moving to Fund 3 here. This one is another one. How long have you held this one, Lanny?
I have held this ETF 10 years, give or take a year.
Yeah, ever since I've known you, you've been talking about this ETF. You are always talking about the Vanguard FTSE Europe ETF, or ticker VGK. Your international exposure, Lanny. A nice little compliment here for your portfolio.
When I was, in my younger days, in my early 20s, I bought, Vanguard's VGK to get international exposure. In this part of my portfolio, I've never really added to it after the first year or two of buying it. I used to I bought it in my Roth IRA a long time ago, and I actually do own over 400 shares. So this position has just exploded because of dividend reinvestment, essentially, is the only thing that's carrying the weight here.
Hey, that's awesome though. That's the point of it. Set it, forget it, and just watch it grow. That's the beauty.
To get into the top stocks within this ETF before we hit the dividend, you're talking Nestle, Shell, AstraZeneca, Novartis, Total, HSBC, a little bit of Hennessy and Louis Vuitton. So, there's some big names that you really don't hear about too much in the dividend investing community, but it's all in this ETF.
Yep, the dividend in Q2 2022 was $1.0479. Compare that to Q2 2021, 74 cents, so 0.74. That growth rate is huge, 41.61%.
Yeah, 41% growth rate on the VGK, a very volatile type of dividend, because though Q2's dividend was better than last year's by 40+%, this year's Q1 versus last year's Q1 was actually lower by about 49%.
Yeah, so a nice 41% increase for VGK, nice European exposure. Lanny, let's transition into that fourth fund that we are talking about.
Oh man, I like to call it the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF. I know a lot of more aggressive, want growth, but also want that dividend component to it. A lot of those investors buy VIG.
You know what, everyone? If you appreciate dividends like Vanguard does, like we do, like I know all of you do, make sure you like that. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button below. Tell us how much you love and appreciate dividends.
Guys, rocking the Vanguard hat again. So VIG, some of these, what are some of these top holdings of VIGB?
Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, United Health, JP Morgan, Procter & Gamble, Visa, Home Depot, MasterCard, Coke, and Broadcom. So similar to VYM, but you can see where it's different there too. You can see how maybe a little more growth sneaks in there with some of them, especially when you bring in like your Microsofts and other companies too.
Obviously, they all pay a dividend, but yeah, you're right. With Microsoft, like you said, Visa, Broadcom, MasterCard, more in the higher growth industries, those companies usually look to grow their dividend as well as at a faster pace. So, but Burr, what did Big do in Q2?
All right. Their dividend was 0.6949, Q2 2021, 0.6750. That is only a 2.95% increase.
So Q2 versus Q2 last year, yeah, under 3%. But we'll have to remember in Q1, VIG did have their dividend grow by about 35%. So, you kind of look at the average there, and they're still well over the double digits on average through the year.
So let's round third head. Well, technically, we've already head home. Let's walk back into the dugout here with that fifth fund that we're going to talk about into here. We're going to go back to the well one more time with Vanguard that you said. Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. We're going to take another slice at this one here. This one ticker VTI.
A lot of other investors out there argue VOO versus VTI. I say buy either one. You're great no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, similar companies, slightly different, but I mean, they're all great companies too. And we look at the top 10. I don't think let me take a step back here. There hasn't been one of the funds that we've talked about where you look at the top 10 and you're like, this one's clearly inferior to all the other ones. You look at them, you're like, these are all great long-term dividend stocks.
Right. And Facebook or Meta slides into the top 10 holdings within this ETF. Again, ticker symbol is VTI. To jump right into the dividend growth on VTI, they actually gave, VOO a little elbow jab in the jaw because they paid a 74.91 cent dividend in Q2. Last year's Q2 was 67.53 cents. So up by about 10.93%. And remember, VOO was 7.44%.
Yeah, but VOO is going to be like, you listen up, brother, because I beat you last quarter because VTI's Q1 growth was lower than VOO's. To your point, VOO's Q1 dividend growth was 8.81%. VTI was 70.82 cents. In Q1 2022, Q1 2021, 67.16 cents. That's only a 5.45%.
Yeah, so you got to think they're really kind of like trying to. We might have to have the best of three or the best of. Who's going to win these quarters?
We'll see who comes out Q3. So I mean, in all seriousness, no, everybody. We talked about 5 great Vanguard funds today. We summarized their dividend growth from Q2. It's really a good pulse check just to see what's going on with the sector, what's happening in the community, and all the different funds that other people may own. We love our ones. Lanny obviously loves VYM, VOO, VGK. But again, remember, there are so many great funds out there too. The goal is just to talk about them, get exposure, and just keep putting your cash to work in investments.
That's right. So let us know in the comments how many ETFs that we mentioned here out of the 5 Vanguard ETFs that you own. Let us know if you love that dividend growth this quarter across the board. If you haven't already, definitely give the video a nice thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Hope you guys had a great 4th of July weekend. That was Bertha, Hurt, and Lanny from the Dividend Diplomats. Over and out.